Great men never die. They remain for generations and generations. They endure in history forever, whether we like it or not. To date, we read and we study about those major contributors to humanity. But those closest to us are those we relate to, those who led the country during our lifetime. This is why Field Marshal Mohamed Tantawi will always be remembered as the captain that led the vessel to safety during the storm, leading to where we are today. May his soul rest in peace. Good evening. You're watching the Business Insider on Nile TV International, and I'm Ayman Salah. Our weekly program tackles events affecting economies and businesses, and we aim to bring you the inside story. Welcome back. Let's start with the first news item. Real estate companies could face closer regulatory scrutiny under proposals designed to mitigate risk in the sector. Vice Minister for Housing Khalid Abbas said auditors may be assigned to each real estate developer and report quarterly on projects and activities. Abbas said the ministry and the new Urban Communities Authority are also considering having real estate developers create separate bank accounts for each of their developments, which would allow auditors to monitor the project's finances. Real estate developers would be divided into 7 categories based on their solvency, and land would be distributed based on companies' finances, their technical expertise, and business history. This would help prevent projects from being delayed and companies from entering financial difficulties. Now, the second news item is from Fitch. Fitch announced that it is upbeat on Egypt's fertilizer sector. The agency is bullish on its rising production and exports. According to its report, production and exports in Egypt's fertilizer sector will continue to increase between now and 2025, despite recent hikes on export fees. It said Egypt is already a major player in the global fertilizer market and will likely reinforce its position over the coming 3 years as plateauing domestic consumption and increased production allows companies to increase exports, particularly to the sub-Saharan Africa and MENA regions. We hold an upbeat outlook for Egypt's fertilizer sector with a number of ongoing and planned projects expected to increase production capacity, especially for nitrogen fertilizer, according to Fitch. We'll be back. Welcome back. You're watching the Business Insider. Tonight I'm joined by an expert in the food and grain technology industry. He is Mr. Ahmed Bilal. A pleasure to have you on the show here with us tonight. Thank you for coming.
Very nice.
Let's watch this report which tackles grain storage technology and then start our discussion here on the Business Insider.
Okay.
Food security is a major priority for any nation. This comprises many aspects of the cycle, whether agricultural, production, or storage. The Regional Center for the Technology of Grain Storage in Birqash was the latest addition to the country's efforts in the latter. The center is established to become a regional hub for training and preparing calibers in the field of grain storage technology and the management and operation of silos. It represents an important step forward in strengthening Egypt's food security strategy and in achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals, namely zero hunger and decent work and economic growth, along with responsible consumption and production. Egypt's efforts in implementing its food security strategy re-emphasized prior measures to provide basic needs, which became an urgent task in times of crisis. The center was developed with an Emirati grant to train engineers and technicians in the field of electricity, mechanics, and agriculture. Within the scope was to enhance the efficiency of the grain silos storage and handling systems. This has been achieved, and the storage capacity has doubled since 2014, which was estimated at 1.6 million tons. Now the capacity increased to 3.4 million tons. The silos project contributed to increasing the strategic stock of wheat, which greatly helped in dealing with the corona pandemic, and increased the strategic wheat reserve to 4.7 months. The Birkash silo is built on 8 faddans with a storage capacity of 60,000 tons, 12 metal cells with a capacity of 5,000 tons for each, and wholly operated by a control room. This, along with 23 other plants stretching from the Mediterranean Sea in the north and Suez in the east, all the way down to Aswan in the south. In addition to the Oasis plant of 600 kilometers west of Aswan. Egypt, which produces around 23 million tons of grain products, is a major grain consumer. It is the world's biggest importer of wheat, with an annual import of 17 million tons of different grain products.
Welcome back to the Business Insider. Again, I am joined by Mr. Ahmed Bilal. He's an expert in the food and grain technology industry. Once again, a pleasure having you on the show here tonight.
Nice to meet you again.
Pleasure. I remember some time ago, we weren't used to seeing the big silos on the highways that we now see. How was the situation like before the emergence of the large numbers of silos that we see today? And how is this affecting the storage industry, if you can call it that?
We first of all, it's a pleasure to be with you in the program. And if we talk about the grain storage steel silo specifically, this is for sure is new development and new technology to store our food and our main food, especially the wheat, soybean, corn, all these strategic goods or strategic stuff for our food. Before, we use the traditional methods for storage, like we called it shona by Arabic.
Shona, which is basically storing in the land.
Piece of land. It's open, not closed, in many provinces, owned by some local people who work in the same field for trading or selling or buying the grains, collecting for sure this is controlled by the government for sure. They apply to store some of wheat from the local farmer around this area. Then they collect this by manual documents, and for the no cover, no any protection, no from the raining, from the sun, from the dust. This why
humidity.
This why the waste was too much. About 10 to 15%, sometimes reach 20% of the stock of our grains. This why we have to import a lot to compensate. This is why our number of importing of the wheat was increasing, not only because of the population, also because of the waste of our storage, traditional methods of storage for grains. But this why since 2015, when we started to study these problems, the government and the political leadership concentrate to solve this problem, and find that we have to make the steel silo projects. And we make now about 50 projects, big project around Egypt in more than 17 provinces.
Governorates.
Which now able to store about 4 million tons. It wasn't.
What does the 4 million ton represent compared to our consumption?
Our consumption is about 18 million ton now. You mean Egypt consumption of the weight?
Right.
Consumption is about 18 million ton.
18 million tons
Yes.
annually.
Yes, annually. We plant about 8 to 9 million ton. So the government sector, the public sector and the private sector annually try to compensate the difference, which is about 9 to 10 million by exporting from Russia, from Ukraine.
Importing.
Importing from
Right.
Russia, yeah.
The 4 million ton storage, is this the overall storage capacity?
The 4 million ton storage is over.
Yes.
Yes, this is not only for the steel silos.
Only
for the
steel?
for the new storage, steel silos for grains. But we, as I told you, we produce about 8 million, 8 to 9 million ton. So the rest we storage by the traditional methods of like Shona, like the open area.
So we still have
still
the
have some,
traditional,
yeah.
some traditional means of,
Sure.
of storage.
But in fact, the government also, in parallel with making the new project of steel silo, also taking into consideration to improve the traditional old way for these lands by making like warehouses, closed warehouses, at least to make it to make the protection and to make it closed enough to assure the waste, to reduce the waste, to assure the cleanup, the cleaning of the cleanliness of our wheat.
And this covers the all the amount?
No. I mean some of these old shonas or old open area is already cancelled, stopped.
Okay, so the time frame needed to transform the storage industry into silos. Do we need to have the whole capacity stored in silos, or can we have different methods of storage, like you said, the warehouses?
In this concern, we need only to store what we produce.
What we produce?
Yes, because for the importing quantity, some importers have the facilities to store what they import. And if the government import, they have also the silos in the port, like Dumyat Port Project, Silos Project, and Alexandria Port Silos Project. So this can at least to store another 1 million ton in the ports. So what we need to store urgently is what we produced. If we produce about 8 million ton, so we need another
4 million tons capacity.
Right. So this means at least we, in the coming 5 years, we need to replace the old ways like open land, or at least most of them to be steel silos too.
Why 5 years? Because as our understanding, the leadership does not take 5 years. It's 1 year and you're done.
Yes.
1 year and you have to execute.
Yes, right.
So is there a possibility to execute the remaining amount in less than the 5 years that you mentioned?
But yes, there's a possibility to do that in 2 years. But it has a relation with the general situation of the economy and the budget of the development and the priority of the big project which we are doing.
Is there a role for the private sector in this domain?
Is the role for the private sector?
Is there a role for the private sector in the storage industry?
Yes, right. Sometimes the private sector has, they have this land. Some of them has the ability, and already they make a silos project, and they have also contracted to store for the government. The same as they do for the land before, with all the traditional methods, they do it with steel silos now. Some roads, but not Not too much, because not all of the owners of this land have the ability to do the silos project.
So they need funding.
Sure.
They need
Sure.
investors.
Sure, yes.
Are there investors interested in this field?
Many investors interested, and they already applied to their banks by somehow to get a loan to get the fund to make steel silo project in their land.
Do we need to have incentives for such investors to embark on or start such projects with an easier capacity or with an easier with easier regulations?
In fact, for the bank loans for making a project or develop the current project even or the current manufacturing, there is now a good facilities. The political leader 5 years ago, they make some new rules with the banks for giving these kind of investors loans by very low interest, and this is like encourages them to make big projects and a good project. But sometimes they need to be encouraged by the benefits. This means the price for storage per ton for storing 1 ton in the normal land for the old ways is different from the price who will get from the government against storing the weight by the steel silo. So if we look at the fees which the owner, which is the investor, take as benefit, as profit against this storage, this will encourage them to do more project from steel silo.
So what you're saying is we need to pay more to store in the steel silos?
Yes, sure, because
now there are regulations.
The surface is different. Before, no cost almost. No cost on the owner. Now there's a cost: electricity, equipment, maintenance.
There is in Birkesh, Beresh,
60,000 ton.
Be
Birkash, yeah. 60,000 ton project.
The regional center for technology of grain storage. This has a number of functions of them, training, for example, the personnel on the storage. Are there certain guidelines for this process and for developing the storage process?
I didn't get your point. You mean this like instruction?
What are we training them to do? Why is there a training center?
We are training them to do. We are training them in this center to how to have a better way for storing our crops, our main food, and the advantage of storing the weight in a steel silo, advantage of having this kind of technology, and compare with the old ways. Our waste from storing the weight in steel silo, the waste is 1%.
Compared to 20%.
With to 15, we can say 15% is big difference. If you are importing, if you are consumption, your consumption is about 18 million ton per year, so 15% you can imagine the difference. It's about 2 million ton. You save 2 million ton. You save 2 million ton money from your import value. So they train them how to do. They train the worker how to.
No, 15% will probably be more than 2 million tons.
No, not more.
No,
because
2 million tons. If you're saving 2 million tons of wheat, it means that you have a better supply.
Sure.
Which should also reflect on the price.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So this would, to my understanding, it should decrease the price.
Yes. You will have the time, you will have the ability to get better price for your needs. Even the storage, the storage ability give you enough time to have a good price when you buy. Because if you buy the wheat when you need it, you don't care the price. You just want the wheat here. But if you have storage and you have time for 4-6 months at least, so you have time to bargain and to get a good price with good grade of wheat.
Now you have storage of 4.7 months. About 4.7 months. How does this raise? 4.7
months is good, is not bad. 6 months should be
optimum.
Optimum. Yeah, 6 months storage.
How does such an initiative, the Silos Initiative, contribute to exports and enhance our competitiveness?
If you do the storage of your grains, especially for the wheat, well, so as we said, your waste will be less. And also the quality of your wheat, which come out from the storage silos, not like which come out from the open land, open area. So finally your product, you will not export wheat, you will export product, wheat products like flour.
Added value products.
Added value products like flour, maybe noodles, maybe pasta, maybe. So your product of the wheat, the product, final product from the wheat will be exported. Like, for example, we export in 2019 about $225 million flour. We exported to Middle Africa, West of Africa, and also some Asian country, Arab country like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Emirates, Yemen. We exported to Venezuela in South America. We exported to north of Africa. Our export from the flour, this number is already registered in our customs from the HS code of flour is about $225 million. And due to COVID-19 and 020, we export about $141 million. This big number, good number, due to the pandemic, this good number.
Right.
Otherwise, if no corona, if no this pandemic, our number will be more. This means it affects our contribution in the export.
So if you don't have proper storage, then you will not have proper quality in the production.
To open other markets.
To open other markets.
Yes. Right. Because also not all the markets same requirement. Some market high requirements, some market lower requirements. But at least you will have the ability to meet all the requirements. When you
diversify your quality.
Yes. When you have well storage for your material, because the wheat is your material, and this is, as we said, this is strategic stuff. This is the main food.
Talk to me about the storage industry, the technology behind the storage industry. Are there certain requirements for this industry? Are there certain issues that we need to address in order to enhance the widespread storage capacity within the country?
This industry has no difficult requirements. Very easy, very simple. Just a piece of land. It is just a huge number, huge amount of investment. Because it is like a building. It is a steel building. So it costs much. This is according to the capacity of the project for sure. And it costs much because it is like steel building, and the foundation of this project must be well done because it bears a lot of wheat. tons, how many tons it can bear, the building, the instructions itself, and the steel, and the handling equipment, elevators, and the chain conveyor, and the controls. It's
mega projects.
Mega projects.
They're big projects, right.
So the requirement needed is electricity and land. It will be better if the land is dry enough, far from the water, or at least makes a special treatment to be dry, to protect it, because the water will affect the building and will affect the grain as well. No other requirement. Money.
Money, location, energy.
Energy. Enough.
Energy, you don't have an issue with energy nowadays.
Yes, right.
So the location, so with the logistics centers that are now in different parts
yes.
of the country,
The roads, highways.
is there a linkage between the storage and the logistics centers?
In fact, recently, with the new huge amount of highways we are seeing now and we are using now, and all of the people feel that, all of Egyptians feel that,
right.
that all the highways already connected by somehow, by some way, make it short, make it fast, and this is one of the main reasons for fast development, is the roads, highways, I mean, and the communications. I mean, communication now are all the world have it. The roads is one of will make shift for our development in Egypt. The location for the grain silos is very important to be close to the markets, the distributing points, especially if these silos belong to the government. The government has a plan, distributing plan for each location. This location will feed or supply or provide the wheat to the around area, the nearest points around. So the location is important for the silo project, to be close from airport, from the port, I mean, close from the port, close for distributing point. But I think now, the government to consider this well, because we have many mega projects now for silo. To complete, we will search the other province, or at least the far area, which haven't this style project now, and we will establish there.
The rail transportation system, cargo, would that be added value for the transportation of your grains?
Sure. This will help too much. You mean the railway, right?
Right.
Yeah.
For cargo.
Will help too much. But I think this will be the next step to improve the rail after we finish all our network of the storage silo projects. After we cancel or replace, we can say replace all the traditional methods of storage, and all become steel silos, the rail will have an important role for that, because uploading the rail with the grains also need equipment, which is not available in the old ways.
Right.
You need special equipment to load the weight on the rail, on the train. So this will be available only with the new technology of steel silos.
With the new technology of steel silos, and also with the rails being close to the silos.
Yes, right.
All right. So one sees, you mentioned the highways, so when you're driving around the highways, you see the big food manufacturers, they have silos.
Yes.
For their production. And here is the private versus the governmental or the national silos. You mentioned 4 million ton capacity now to store. Does this include the private sector?
No.
Which
private sector? Private sector, which he make his silos for storage.
For
business,
his own production?
For his own feed, for his own mill, for his own factory, or for the government.
Right.
For the government, including. For his own business, no. Not
It's
included.
not included.
Not in the government calculation at all, because he makes this for his own material, for his factory material.
Where are we? First, let me ask you, what is stored in the silos? Just wheat?
No, wheat and beans. We can say mainly now in Egypt we store wheat, soybean, corn.
Corn.
These three is the main. But some other new grains, now the Egyptian people who work in the grain fields started to store also like other beans like fava beans, and kidney beans, and lentil, sesame, peanut. Now, all these before no storage, no silo, but the silo is getting
So you need
more
much
and more for many grains.
So you need much more than the 18 million tons capacity.
This is, we talk only about 18 million tons. This is for the wheat.
This is for the wheat.
Yeah, for other grain, Egypt consumption is reach about 27, 28.
So there
Totally.
So there is a big room for investing in the silos.
Sure. All the silos companies know that. Egypt is good market. And also Egypt population is not
So in order to
less.
attract local and international investors, we have the land, we have the electricity, the energy, and we have the transportation now. So again, what do we need in order to lure in or to attract foreign investors in this domain? Are there other incentives that we need to focus on?
To attract investors, local, as we talked before,
Right.
just to try to enlarge their
I know
benefits.
you have relations with suppliers in other countries
Yes.
around the world.
Yes.
When you talk to them, what do you tell them in order to attract them to invest in the country?
My relation with some suppliers, foreigner suppliers, these suppliers is equipment supplier. I talk with them about Egypt. That is promising market. Egypt is promising market, and now Egypt is developing. Yeah, big consuming country, but and also developing, not reach the developed yet, not developed, totally developed. It's developing country. So when you have share here, this means you are putting step for the future, more business. But these suppliers is selling equipment and machinery. If I understand right, I think you mean the investors which can make a big project here.
Right.
This to attract them. This I think need some policy with the bank, some guarantee for protection for their investments, for how to send their money back to the country, how to secure.
Which is all available.
Yes, how to secure. To show them that, or to make like
so basically,
seminar.
we need to tell our story to the world.
Yes. This is the main. How to talk about us.
Mr. Ahmed Bilal, expert in the food and grain technology industry, thank you very much for joining us here on the show.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure having you. Thank you for being with us. See you same time next week. I'm Ayman Salah. Good night.